Hello everyone and welcome to the answers to the feedback challenge on IELTS Writing Task 2 conclusions. So your challenge this week was to write a conclusion for the essay here. So the essay was, it has been suggested that cars and public transport should be banned from city centres and only bicycles be allowed instead. I've given you the opinion, so we need to say that we're agreeing. Our two main ideas, one of them is it reduces pollution, and one of the ideas was it makes city centres safer for children. So let's have a look. Remember, when we are writing a conclusion, we need to summarise our two main ideas and restate our opinion. And that's all we do. Occasionally, you'll not be asked for your opinion, and then you're just summarising your main ideas. But in this case, we had to give two main ideas in the essay. So we need to summarize both of those and, as I said, repeat our opinion. So we're always going to start a conclusion with either to conclude or in conclusion. So every single time, that's the language we're going to use. And the student started well. They said, I totally agree. I like the fact they're using totally because the question we can see says to what extent. So it's always very good to stress the extent. But I totally agree that only bicycles rather than vehicles and public transport. So we can't use a comparative here because you're saying only bicycles. So you can say, I agree that bicycles rather than vehicles and public transport, but you can't say only bicycles rather than this because there's nothing there as rather because it's only bicycles. So here, we can just get rid of this part. I totally agree that only bicycles should be allowed to enter city centres. Because it improves air quality, good, and makes city centres safer for children. Excellent. Apart from that, really good. Let's have a look at our next one. So in conclusion, I believe entering city centres should only be by bicycles. So this student is trying to put our subject at the end of our expression in a prepositional phrase. So I'm really trying to get students to stop doing this at the moment. I want you to start thinking, what is your subject? So our subject here, bicycles. So we're only using by bicycles if we're using this kind of prepositional phrase at the end, if you're using the passive voice. This is not the passive voice, therefore it doesn't make sense to be using a prepositional phrase at the end. So I believe only bicycles So that's our subject. Then our verb is should. So I'm going to get rid of this. And the verb we were using was enter. So I believe only bicycles should enter. And then what are they entering? City centres. So object. Again, we don't need this comparison here rather than motor vehicles because we've already said only bicycles should enter city centres. So it's in comparison to everything else because you've already said only. So we don't need this. I believe only bicycles should enter city centres because, okay, we're giving a reason. So reason one, it reduces contamination. So contamination and pollution are not exactly the same words. Sometimes these words are synonyms, but in this context, they're not. So because it reduces pollution and makes these centres safer for children, second part is fine. Okay, next one. So in conclusion, again, good starts. Remember, after a full stop or comma, we always need a space. So both times here, there's no space. These are both counted as grammar mistakes. Very, very easy to fix. But before a full stop or comma, no space. After a full stop or comma, a space. In conclusion, I totally agree that bicycles should be permitted instead of public transport. Public transport here is uncountable, so we have no S. And cars in the city centre. So we don't know which city centres. We're talking about city centres in general, so no article. So here, this is better because we're saying bicycles should be permitted instead of, so it's not only bicycles, so bicycles are doing this instead of this. So this time the comparative works. We don't put a comma before a subordinate clause, so there's no need for a comma before as or because. So as it not only reduces pollution significantly, good, but also it is safer for children to live in the city. So again, we don't know which city. So maybe it is safer for children to live in cities. Okay, the ideas are there, the opinion is there. So apart from that, good. Move on to our next idea. So in conclusion, I strongly agree. Okay, good. That solely bicycles should be permitted. Here I would say in city centres, otherwise it's a little bit vague. As it will lower the amount of pollution, good, as well as it will make downtown areas of cities safer for children, good. So the ideas are here. Just be careful of how you're using as well as. As well as is not a coordinating conjunction. So what it looks like the student is trying to do. So we have here an independent clause. And we have here an independent clause. So if we want to join two independent clauses together with a word, we're going to use and. You could use as well as to maybe join verbs. So let's have a look at it. So one option is to just say and. Okay. So don't think you can use as well as instead of and. It's not a direct synonym. It's not a coordinating conjunction. So it's a grammatical function. It's not the same. But if we want to use as well as, let's see how we can use this in a sentence. So solely bicycles should be permitted in city centres as it will lower the amount of pollution, as well as, and we could use as well as to join two verbs. So here we could have a double verb. So we're lowering amount of pollution as well as make downtown areas or cities safer for children. So in this way it would work, but it wouldn't work with trying to join clauses. On to our next one. In conclusion, I agree that city centres should only, so here you'd put the only in front of your verb. So I agree that only, city centres should only allow bicycles rather than public transportation. If we put the only in front of bicycles, we can't put this comparison. So I agree that city centres should allow only bicycles and then no comparison, or this way, only allow bicycles rather than public transport. Again, we don't want a comma before our subordinate clause. So as it reduces pollution drastically and creates a safe environment for children. Apart from that, really good. Moving on to our next one. In conclusion, I am of the opinion, that cars and public transportation should not be allowed in cities. Remember, it's not cities, but it's city centres. So a big difference here. Because this will enable to lessen pollution and keep children safe. So this expression doesn't quite work. This will, so the enable is the problem here. So the main verb that we are predicting here is to lessen. So this will lessen pollution and keep children safe. Looks better. Let me read it one more time. I am of the opinion that cars and public transportation should not be allowed in city centres. So we've basically just said, we've agreed in a different kind of way by just repeating this view and saying that this is your opinion. Because this will lessen pollution, keep children safe. Apart from that, good. In conclusion, I believe allowing bicycles as the only mode of transportation in city centres will reduce pollution and also make city centres safer for children. Very, very concise, really nice. And very clearly this is agreeing with that point of view. So a few different ways of doing these conclusions. Most of them good, a couple of little vocabulary or grammar issues, but you've got the main idea. Every single one of these conclusions was definitely just summarizing two ideas and giving an opinion. That's what we need to do. So great job. I would say probably if you do have a question like this, which is asking for extent, to add in the extent. So rather than just saying, I believe, we could put strongly, and it's just going to increase our extent. Here, strongly, I agree, I am of the strong. Here you can say I am of the strong opinion that I strongly need to be a way of doing that. You might find some examiners are not going to pick you up on this, because as long as you have said to what extent you agree in your introduction, they might consider that enough. For the sake of writing one word, I think it's probably a much better idea to also put it in your conclusion, just to be safe on the off chance you find an examiner who is really picky and feels that it should be stated in both the introduction and conclusion. So those were the answers to our challenge. I hope you learned something from me going through those. If you found something useful in this video, please press like, it really does help. Share with anyone that you think it might also help. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content, future challenges and answers. Good luck with all of your studies. Hope you're having a great week. Take care for now.